Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Comics the Gathering. It's me, Jesse, back at it again. We got another Commander deck tech lined up for you today. Continuing our series of doing all of the 2019 Commander precons. Again, these are not CEDH upgrades, but they are upgrades for people who maybe have the money to invest or already own some of these cards. I think these are great ways to take this deck. I am very much a control player. I don't particularly go into aggro strategies very often. I like to durdle, I like to draw cards, and just make the game state into something that I want until I can eventually win. That being said, this is probably one of my favorite in the aggro-esque areas other than Edgar Markov. I wanted to build this deck out in a way that was probably the most optimal way to play it, because I feel the strategy is very susceptible to board wipes. So, without further ado, this is Ghired Conclave Exile. He is the cover card of the Naya deck out of the 2019 cycle. And he works as such. He is a 5-mana 2/5. When he enters the battlefield, you create a 4/4 green rhino creature token with trample. And then every time Ghired attacks, you can populate. To populate, you choose a creature token you already have, and you put an additional copy of that creature token into play. Ghired is interesting in that the populated token enters the battlefield tapped and attacking already. So he provides additional threats and additional power to that. So when I was building this deck and building this deck out, I thought about making powerful creature tokens for him to populate, as well as efficiently populating and trying to make as many as possible, protecting those, and also a few things that trigger off of having creatures attacking. So, without further ado, let's break into the list here. Creature-wise, we're playing some really, really powerful stuff. I will give you guys a heads up. This is a pricey list. Obviously, you don't have to take it to the levels that I took this list to, and only ever invest in what you're comfortable in. But I feel that this one, unless you want to go full CEDH at your local, just friendly commander group, this is going to put in some work. Like, if you just want to up your win rate amongst your friends and you're not full CEDHing here, I think this is the way to go, the most bang for your buck. Starting off with a Bramble Sovereign, Reese the Redeemed. These are pricey cards. But this is going to make the token producing a lot more efficient, and also Reese is going to be able to clone any token later on in the game. Wormcoil Engine being a prime thing in this deck. We got Tristani, Celestia's Voice. This one unfortunately does come in the deck. Populates, is going to gain you life, because when you're the aggro threat and you're attacking out, you're going to want that life gain coming back to you to help you from getting beaten out of the game. Wayfaring Temple is included in the deck. It's equal to the power toughness equal to the number of creatures you control. It's 3 mana. It's rather simple. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you get to populate. So again, it keeps growing. This is one of those cards that I'm not fully sold on, but I didn't hate it enough to remove it. If you guys have a better suggestion over this card, let me know. And it may even be one of the cards that I cut. Then we have Secure Tribe Elder, because there are a couple things that let you clone creatures as they die, like Mimic that. And so being able to maybe keep making Secure Tribe Elders to chump block in the early game and then fetch you out more lands seems like a good plan. We have Celestia Eulogist included in the deck as well. And this gives you some graveyard hate, let you exile your opponent's key stuff, but also continue to populate. We have the Thrag Daddy himself, Thragtusk, coming in. Included in the deck, makes tokens, gains you life, is an intimidating threat on his own. Angel of Sanctions, also included in the deck. Lets you basically play the spot removal role on a creature, and when it comes back and you can start populating those tokens, ooh, that is spicy indeed. Birds of Paradise to give us a little bit of ramp in creature form that we can hopefully start cloning. Garruk's Pack Leader gives us some card advantage. Giant Ediphage, probably one of the best cards that comes in the precon. Simply gets out of hand very fast. Having a creature that's that big with trample, that has the, every time it deals combat damage to a player, make a token that's a copy of itself. You just, if that card left unchecked, it just gets out of hand so quickly. It alone seals games, and do not underestimate Ediphage if you're sitting across the table from it. Keeper of Fables is some nice draw power. You'll actually find that a lot of green decks normally lacking in draw power. This one is not. This one has so much draw power packed into it because I am an inherently blue player. We have Desolation Twin because big dumb 10/10s are big dumb 10/10s. So, and getting 2 10/10 creatures for 10 mana seems like a really good rate, especially when you can then populate one of them and keep ending up with just big 10/10 Eldrazi threats. We also have Feldon of the Third Path. Feldon plays a really cool role here because he gives you some graveyard recursion, but he normally, you have to sacrifice the token he makes during the end step. That is not the case, however, for the copy of the token that you populate out. So keep that in mind. Orin Frostfang doesn't do anything with the token synergy, but again, amazing card draw. Gives all your attacking creatures Death Touch, and if you can stick this thing under like a Soul Foundry and keep spitting out token copies of it and then populating it, you can draw your whole deck real quickly. Beast Whisperer, you cast, there's 21, 22 somewhere in there creatures in the deck right now. You will not be getting his trigger all the time, but you will be getting his trigger most of the time. We do play a lot of instants, sorceries, and enchantments that help with the token plan, so maybe you could drop him for another card that's more beneficial, but I really do like him. Omnath Locus of Rage, if ever there was an easy token generator, it is Omnath Locus of Rage. Being able to, every time you play a land, make a 5/5, that if it dies, you get to bolt something or someone, seems really good. We have Samut, Voice of Dissent, and this is to help speed up your clock and help get things moving quicker for your team. Flame Rush Rider, Rampaging Balliths, and Soul of Zendikar round us out. Of those, Soul of Zendikar, they did a soul cycle in this whole cycle. It's good. It's not my favorite, but I do like its ability to, if it's on the battlefield uninterrupted and you just need to sink mana into something, you're out of resources, it can just make a lot of 3/3s. So it's not terrible. Flame Rush Rider doing the dash thing that it does and making, token copies of things is really good. But most importantly, Rampaging Balliths. Again, it is in the same vein as Omnath for just landfall, making big tokens for your opponents to deal with. It makes 4/4s, and it itself is a 6/6. And they all have trample. So, again, just something that can become very overwhelming very quickly. Getting into the instants, we play 7 instants in this deck. The first one off the top, I gotta let you know, it's expensive because it's barely been printed. I actually think it's getting a reprint in the mystery boosters, so that may hopefully bring down the price a little bit. And that is Teferi's Protection. You're going wide. You're making a ton of tokens. Wrath effects are the bane of your existence. So being able to find creative ways to protect your board and make sure that doesn't happen is very important. Teferi's Protection is, I think, almost necessary for this deck. Obviously, you could do things like play you could play the Boros Charm in its place and give all your creatures indestructible. You could also play both of those in this deck because you're in the right color scheme for it. I just, however, with the list that I built, elected not to because I have so much card draw. I feel I'm more likely to find the Teferi's Protection by the time I need it. That being said, I am playing an Eladromi's Call because tutors in a creature-focused deck are really good. You can hear them off in the distance. We will have sirens here in a minute. There they are. Wait for that to pause. Wait for that to pause. Alright. As you know from all of my videos, sirens all the time. Continuing on, after Eladromi's Call, there is a Fresh Meat, which is really good for post-Wrath. Momentous Fall to maybe turn some of your big creature tokens into some life gain and card draw to continue to stay in the game. Beast Within is just all-around great permanent removal, gets rid of any problems in permanent form, and just leaves them with a 3/3. Rootborn Defenses, another great way to protect yourself and also populate. And then Second Harvest, making copies of all of your current tokens is really, really nice. Just basically being able to double up your board instantaneously. Next we get into enchantments. And enchantments are where this deck really goes off the rails price-wise. If you're trying to play this deck as optimally as possible without playing the hundreds of dollars in mana rocks and fetch lands and all that CEDH wants to play, that still leaves you with Anointed Procession, Parallel Lives, and Doubling Season. Right there, those are going to add up quickly. Not to mention, I stuck in Smothering Tithe, Aura Shards, Sylvan Library. Aura Shards being key for helping basically protect against any artifact enchantment thing. The more tokens you're populating, the more you're just shattering all your opponents' enchantments and artifacts to keep yourself protected. Sylvan Library, great card selection. Smothering Tithe, getting you more mana to get ahead because a lot of the things in this deck end up costing a lot of mana, so you're very mana hungry. Rhythm of the Wild, it doesn't help your tokens come into play with Riot, but all of things like Giant Ediphage, things like Ghired, those coming into play with Riot and having the ability to have haste is really good. Also makes it so they can't be countered. So while it's not the most synergistic thing in the deck, I think with its ability to protect Ghired and with its interactions with cards like Giant Ediphage, totally worth it. Colossal Majesty for more draw power. Fires of Yavimaya. This is the card, on the other hand, that gives you all of your tokens haste. Turns them into major threats and major problems. And are going to help you close out the game quicker. Intangible Virtue, giving all your creature tokens +1/+1 and Vigilance, combined with the haste off Fires of Yavimaya, can make for a very, very disgusting time for your opponents. Song of the World. This is the card that I think helps make the deck what it is. Every time you cast a spell, populate. That is just backbreakingly oppressive if you can get the right tokens on board. So, love the card. Elemental Bond, some more draw power, and then Growing Ranks to keep the populating engine going. That's 13 enchantments in the deck. Into Sorceries, which we have a full 10 of. We are playing Full Flowering, nice little populating card. Cultivate, Farseek, go and help fetch us out some lands. Hour of Reckoning, to cleanse away our opponents' creatures that are not tokens. Hate Mirage. This card, for the most part, I don't think is super good, but in this particular deck is. Being able to take the two biggest threats on the board and make token copies onto your board, which you can then populate, yes, you will lose those initial 2 that you steal, but the tokens that you populate out, you'll be able to keep. And if they have amazing ETB triggers, even better. There is fantastic things like Phyrexian Rebirth in here. A board wipe that leaves behind a big token for you to then populate seems good. Ghired's Belligerence, obviously included with the deck, is one of the most powerful sorceries in the deck. Removal that also populates, really good. Shamanic Revelation, fantastic. One of the best finishers, though, and is super budget friendly. You can pick this up for, I think, less than $1 now. And that's Titanic Ultimatum. Yes, the mana cost is crazy on this thing. But when you have your board full and you're ready to just end things, being able to drop a Titanic Ultimatum, oh, brutal, backbreaking. Now there's one card I did not include in this list because I generally don't like to win with this card unless I build a deck based around the mechanic, and that is you could include Triumph of the Hordes, give all your stuff infect, and then get in for wins that way. It might make it in later on, but as of right now it's not in the list. So there is that route you can go. Finally, our artifacts. Obviously we're playing Sol Ring. We're playing Gruul Signet. We're playing Ronus's Monument. I find that really nice, that giving the cost reduction to your commander plus some of the other creatures we're casting, and then when they enter, also giving +2/+2 to what can attack. Putting that +2/+2 on Ronus is really nice because he is only a 2/5, and he does need to attack to populate. So Soul Foundry and Mimic Vat, I mentioned both of them earlier. They are in this final list because you want additional ways to, your non-token creatures, make token copies of them, because they're obviously, if they make the cut, they're worth running. Idol of Oblivion does come with the deck. I do enjoy that card. I like having a mana rock that can produce a big threat later on in the game, a 10/10 Eldrazi. And then finally rounding out with Lightning Greaves, because we want to give Ghired protection and we want him to be able to attack the turn he comes into play if possible. And then Tome of Legends. This came out in the Throne of Eldraine stuff. It was in the Brawl precons for Throne of Eldraine. And I think this card is going to be, over time, for certain commanders, become an all-star card. It is draw power that is based off removing counters from it. You get those counters. It comes in with 1, but by attacking with your commander or your you will be able to add additional counters on. The problem is not every commander wants to attack. So, but in this case with Ghired and him wanting to attack, I feel this is a choice card and it's going to do nothing but great things for the deck. As for the lands, there aren't anything particular. If you don't know how to build a 3-color mana base, the professor over at Tolarian Community College has made some fantastic videos on building mana bases in efficient ways for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5-color decks. Consult Professor's videos. They're fantastic. I would make my own, but there's no reason. He did them flawlessly. Just check with his. These deck techs going forward, unless there is a significant land, I'm not going to mention them. I think the most significant thing that already comes with the deck, and that's the Gargoyle Castle that lets you make a 3/4 gargoyle. So if you can think of anything, you can go ahead and add it in. But all in all, it did not end up making anything noteworthy. But that's the deck tech. This deck's a lot of fun. Just sometimes I'm the calculated player, and I gotta play, to do the smart things and control the board. And normally that's what I do. But every now and then it is fine to just be the aggressor. And just be like, I'm just gonna make big dumb things, and if you can't deal with it, I win. and you just brute force your opponents down. And you can still do that in an intelligent manner and play in the most logical way in those scenarios, but, you know, aggro can be fun. But that's going to conclude Ghired the Conclave Exile. Thank you guys for watching. If this is your first time checking out the channel, go and you like the video, go ahead, like, subscribe if you want, and if you do subscribe though, ring that notification bell so you get notified when we upload new content.